The drug cartels are waging war on America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels.
In today's video, we're going to talk about how the Albanian Mafia conquered Europe's drug market. Pay close attention, we have a very intriguing topic ahead of us. So let's start. Drawing a parallel between the US and Europe. Former US Attorney General William Barr seems to have an idea of how to solve the great problem of drug trafficking in the US. First of all, he claims that America's anti-drug strategy has been ineffective so far because it doesn't intend to cut the drug supply at its source, which is Mexico. Mexico turns out to be the head of the snake, and in order to cut snake heads, the US president needs to deploy the military against cartels in Mexico. That's the only way. Barr also stated that he had previously visited Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, and resented him for his understatement of the seriousness of the situation that Mexico is facing. Barr added that Europe can't allow the American scenario and will have to eventually put a stop to the Albanian Mafia. Why Albanian Mafia? You'll find out soon. Not only does Europe have major drug trafficking problems, but in addition, Europe is also facing problems with terrorism and immigration-related organized crime. In the context of Europe, Albania seems to be the snake's head. Supposedly, the Albanian Mafia has been on the rise for the last 2 decades, and to make things worse, it's spreading west, which is starting to upset Western governments. The German government has recently claimed that there are over 40 Albanian gangs vigorously expanding their illegal business, like drug and people trafficking in that country. We can remark on the similar situation in other European countries such as Belgium, Luxembourg, the UK, Spain, Greece, and France. What are the Albanian Mafia mechanisms that help them take control of the UK's drug supply? Allegedly, the Albanian Mafia currently controls about £6 billion or 3 million tons of cocaine, a large part of the cocaine market in the UK. First of all, you might be wondering how Albania became the main drug supplier in Europe. Well, according to Belgian police, members of the Albanian Mafia possess exceptional discipline, reliability, and professionalism. Other than that, they have internalized some ancient behavior codes they have to respect, no matter what. Otherwise, they're putting themselves or their family in danger. Other gang members that work with them usually describe them as very aggressive, as they can wipe out the whole family if they're in the way in the blink of an eye. They don't have a problem with that. On top of that, they have the ability to strike fear into the hearts of other people. The perfect example is the cocaine smuggler interviewed by media channel Vice, who stated that his brother, wife, and friend fell victim to the Albanian Mafia, but he still works with them in spite of that. Besides that, they seem to have an amazing capability to easily connect with other criminal organizations, like the ones from Latin America. Drug cartels from Latin America are the ones supplying the Albanians with cocaine smuggled into Europe. When it comes to the UK, the Albanian Mafia managed to establish capillary networks throughout the country, which they use to move drugs from larger cities to smaller ones. These routes are not only used by the Albanian Mafia, but by the domestic and foreign mafia as well. The main indicator showing the UK is facing a vast problem is the fact that organized crime costs the UK's economy almost £40 billion. That's $50 billion a year. How come there are so many Albanians in the UK? Although we did explain how the Albanian Mafia managed to establish and develop the connection and infrastructure, we didn't explain how they got there in the first place. During the Kosovo War in 1998-99, as many as 1 million people were relocated. Hundreds of thousands of Kosovars sought refuge in European countries, and some of them even ended up in the UK. On the other hand, some sources suggest that most Kosovars settled in Albania, and the others who reached the UK and other countries were actually Albanians who seized the moment in search of a better life. Now, it's estimated there are around 100,000 Albanians and Kosovars in the UK combined. They managed to create a satellite of people who share the same language and are open to any newly arrived citizens. Some social problems like discrimination, marginalization, and exploitation go in their favor because they seem to draft Albanians who are experiencing just that. If they don't want to collaborate, the mafia threatens either them personally or threatens to hurt their family in Albania, forcing them to work in the drug industry. Obtaining and maintaining the monopoly. Albanian criminal groups now obviously have the monopoly of drug supply. But the question is, how did they manage to pull it off? A decade ago, a kilo of cocaine sold for 40,000 euros, approximately 43,000 US dollars. But now the price has significantly dropped, reaching 30,000 euros or $32,000. The Albanians did it on purpose in order to completely erase their competition in case they didn't adapt to the new price. As we mentioned, Albanians managed to make strong connections with Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and Panama. On top of that, they also created a corrupt network that includes port officials and their operators in the most important maritime commercial hubs in Europe. So basically, the Albanian Mafia buys a kilo, or 2,200 pounds of cocaine, for the price of $4,000, 3,720 euros, in South America and subsequently sold it in Europe for 30,000 euros, or 32,000 US dollars. That means their profit is still very high, even though they dropped the prices of cocaine, which helped them cut down their competition. That way, not only did they obtain the monopoly, but it also enriched themselves immensely. How do they transport the cocaine? Half of the cocaine is smuggled by Mexican cartels into America, while the other half is usually concealed in container ships and transported to Albania and Europe thereafter. Sometimes there are even direct shipments to the UK, but most of the time the cocaine is transferred using ports in Rotterdam and Antwerp. Approximately 90% of the cocaine gets through undetected, and that's the proof of their network efficiency. Accordingly, Albanians use famous transportation methods such as smuggling it in bananas, pineapples, dried fruit, and metal or wooden objects too. Thanks to observation of the Compania Bello, the Albanian drug cartel, investigators figured out there are three basic methods for the transportation of drugs. The first one, also called the system, includes the refrigerated container with a loading surface that can be lifted and welded again after hiding the cocaine. The other one, commonly referred to as the dry, includes a simple container and simple and fast insertion of cocaine. What these two methods have in common is that the company receiving the goods is usually controlled by the mafia or has some kind of partnership with them. That way, the mafia can extract the cocaine easily after the goods are unloaded in warehouses. The third method is called the rip-off, and it refers to the situation in which cocaine is stored in suitcases or bags and subsequently placed behind the container doors. Afterwards, the recipients collect it, either during a stop at one of the ports or at sea. This method is considered the most risky one and is conclusively least used because it can be more easily intercepted by scanners or other control systems. How do they launder their money? On the streets of London, the same as in other cities, you can find dozens of empty or semi-empty car washes or gas stations. Seems suspicious, Usually, the Albanian criminal organizations are the owners of them, and of course they use them for money laundering, but for member recruitment as well. Since the great amount of cocaine passes through undetected and most members of the mafia are working freely, you have most likely assumed not only how Albanians developed an enviable network, but effective money laundering techniques as well. Frequently, they transfer money abroad using MoneyGram or Western Union, which allows them to hide important information. The perfect example is Chinese criminal associations that have to send money to South America. First of all, they send cash to Europe to a contact person in the Chinese organization. Subsequently, the same amount of money is sent to the traffickers in South America by the members of the same organization for a particular fee. What this means is that the payment is completed successfully without any electronic or physical money transfer whatsoever. That makes it almost impossible to trace, because there's nothing to trace, right? Do you see how the whole system is based on mutual trust and reliability? We mentioned it before, and this is how it's applied in practice. Thanks to all this, the Albanian Mafia has managed to become so influential, and it seems it is getting stronger each day. But the real question is, how long can they keep it that way? Well, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like and comment on this video. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing and want us to continue with more cool content. Until the next time.